Alright guys, so as always, welcome back to G2 Outdoor Adventures, and I'm Adam. So today we're taking a walk through the woods, and we're going to kind of knock out a couple things here. So one, I'm scouting for some deer trails, deer sign, that kind of stuff. I got a camera out here already, but it needs a fresh chip put in there. And also, probably the most important thing for you guys, is we're going to do a knife unboxing of the Self-Reliance Outfitters, or SRO, Scorpion regular size knife. So we did an unboxing a while back, and that was of our Kepart edition, and it seemed like you guys really liked that knife review. And then we had another outing we went on, and we kind of went in depth and we put that knife in use. So we might do the same thing with this. We might go ahead and do our unboxing review today, wait a couple weeks, we'll go ahead and do a 2-day camping trip. We'll use that knife, we'll put it to the test and kind of see how it performs, and then even possibly we'll see how the comments go if you guys are interested. But we could have a Self-Reliance Outfitters Kepart edition versus the Scorpion edition, and kind of see where the different areas where those knives kind of shine. Look for some strengths and weaknesses between the two knives, and where I think they might take its place just a little bit better versus one over the other. But we're going to put this trail camera out, and we'll go ahead and catch up with you guys here in a few minutes. Alright, that was real easy. We got the Mole Tree trail camera here. Hasn't failed me yet. But we dropped that chip in there. And this piece of woods, we actually went camping in it last weekend. So we already have a little bit of a previous campsite set up. So we'll go back over there and we'll go ahead and take a look at this Scorpion knife. So this is the kind of stuff we're looking for as we're walking. So right here has a really pretty looking turkey feather here. And it looks pretty fresh, like the edges of it look real nice and clean. And right with that turkey feather with some acorns, so you know you got some oak trees here above us. And these are good signs for a piece of hunting ground. So you know there's turkeys there, good chance that white-tailed deers are here. We've seen some trails, and obviously you got a food source. So those are two really good signs already. We'll keep walking though. Alright guys, so we got our bag hanging here. Inside our bag is where we got our knife at. So we got our Self-Reliance Outfitters package that they ship it in. Of course I got some water in case I get thirsty or need a container. We got some fat wood in here. We got some catfish river cordage for making like trout lines. I got the small Pocket Boy, Silky Pocket Boy. I believe I got a piece of paper in here for us to look at too. Got a piece of paper in here. We'll go ahead and check our edge. So let's go ahead and gather a couple of sticks. We're going to cut some sticks so we can make some feathers with it. We're also going to want to make like a tent peg or something like that with it. Let's go see what we could find. So this is a green tree, but it was already down. It's not growing real healthy. It's got too much over cover on it. So we'll go ahead and take this and we'll make our tent stake with it. This is the Silky Pocket Boy. I got the 240 and I got the Pocket Boy. I like both of them a real lot. But I believe you could pick these up through Amazon. I'll go ahead and try to leave a link in the drop down below. So we got a couple of tent stakes here. Let's go ahead and grab a dead piece of wood to make our feathers with. Alright, so we're ready for our knife review here. So we have the Self-Reliance Outfitters Scorpion Edition knife. So this is the box that it actually came in. And kind of a spoiler alert, I did take a sneak peek at it. I just couldn't resist. So I ordered this knife, and it was like a, I don't know, I don't remember exactly, maybe like a 2-month waiting period, so I had to pre-order it because they didn't have them in stock. So I ordered it, then I had to wait 2 months to get it. And so it's kind of just at that point where you kind of almost start to forget about it, and then bang, it shows up in your mail. So when you order this knife, you'll have this box that it comes in. It also had a Self-Reliance Outfitters sticker in there. And then of course you got your invoice in here. So this knife here, this box is actually a little bit different than the Kep Art edition that we looked at. And so I don't know if that's different just because it's a different knife, or maybe they changed their packaging with it. I'm not really sure. But it has a real nice looking box to it either way. And on this side, it shows some of the different knife configurations that they offer. So for us, we have the Scorpion today. And this is the standard size. They also offer an extra large size. And so I said, I kind of took a sneak peek at this already. So we had some bubble wrap in here, had it all wrapped up nice. This is our Self-Reliance Outfitters sticker that came with it, which is kind of a cool addition. I'll give it to one of the kids, they could play with it. We'll go ahead and put this to the side. So it seems with all the Self-Reliance Outfitter knives that the knife is sold on its own, and then you could buy whatever style sheath you want additionally. But the knife came very well oiled and wrapped up in some cellophane plastic. So the shipping and the boxing, overall that was real nice. It looked really well. There was a little bit of confusion as far as the shipping invoice, just because I had some other items that shipped at a different date than what the knife shipped. But it was no big deal. They handled it real well. So we're going to go ahead and come in here. Like I said, I only looked at this knife for like 60 seconds. But I'm going to go ahead and take a second to look at it. Look at the cutting edge of it, the grinds on there. See how symmetrical everything is. See how the pins fit. Is the scales flush to the blade? You know, is there any high spots or rough spots that don't feel quite right? We'll take a look at the whole thing here real quick. So right off the bat, I'm looking at this 90-degree spine. So the 90-degree spine looks to be very clean. The 90 looks perfect. It's very sharp to the touch. Very clean looking. The blade itself kind of has that hardening look to it. So these are not hand forged or anything. They're actually stock removal. So this patina here that's on the blade, that's probably part of the heat treat process. We'll go ahead and take a look at this bevel here. For the most part, the bevel looks real clean on there. It kind of looks like, you know, if you took it to the belt grinder and then the very edge of the blade has a higher sheen to it. So they probably took it to a buffing wheel for the finishing touches to remove the burr off the cutting blade, edge of the blade. It has the PKS stamped logo in the side of the blade, and that logo looks real nice, looks real good. And these are the camo micarta scales here. So that micarta is going to be I believe these are the canvas ones. So it's going to be a layer of canvas and different colors with a adhesive like glue compound mixed in there and then pressed at a high temperature. But these are super durable handle scales here. Last you a very long time. And now I'm going to look at the pins, see how clean the pins look. So when you drill into the knife scales of the knife or into the knife itself, you could get some walk on your drill bit. So you could look to see maybe if they pre-drilled these or started the holes off, or see if there's any walk to it. So basically you'll end up with like an egg shape, and then you put your round pin in there. And so when you look at the pin itself, you'll see a void in it where that glue will have to be filled in there, including our lanyard hole I'll look at. But they all look really good, super round. They look just like they're supposed to, and they're ground down well. There's no high spots. And then also when you're grinding your pins down in your knife scale, as you're grinding it, if you bog down on it too hard, too fast, take off too much material, you'll superheat your pin, and you could actually burn your scales around the pin or burn that adhesive on there. And I don't see any burning on there either. So one thing I do notice while looking on here, so on the back of the blade here, we actually have some discoloration of the scale where it meets the tang here. There has that brown color to it. Here's another shot where it comes up onto the top of the knife. You can see it's a little bit more predominant here. I'm assuming more chances than not that that's actually where they took off too much material too fast and they overheated the material, or overheated the steel, which then slightly burned the glue, the adhesive, or that micarta there, a combination of everything, and slightly burned it. So you could probably take some fine sandpaper, maybe some 220 grit, and go over that with some sandpaper and remove it. But for the most part, it doesn't affect the functionality of the knife at all. It is a little bit of a cosmetic defect. But overall, for this price coming in, or this knife coming in at the price it does, and being it's a production knife, but it's real close to getting to like a custom production knife, really. But I think a little bit of a flaw like that, while it's unfortunate, I wish it wasn't there, it's not going to affect the knife or the performance at all. And really, they have a lifetime guarantee on their knives. So if it was something that you were very, very discouraged with and didn't like, I'm sure they would take care of you, especially with the lifetime warranty on it. But for me, something like that, by the time you use this micarta scales and they start to get darkened up and the oil from your hand and oiling and taking care of the knife darkens up the scales, it's really not nothing I'm going to notice or that's going to bother me in the long run. So overall, just the initial appearance of this knife, very pleased with it. It looks really good. Our edge on here is very sharp all the way down. I don't see no burrs left on the blade. I don't see no rolling of the tip where the edge comes together on both sides with that Scandi grind. And the symmetricalness of everything looks really well. So when you look at the blade here, so when you first come in on your grinder, these cuts here, those are your plunge lines. When you look at your plunge line, there's maybe ever so slightly a little bit of a burr there, but not anything that I think is worth complaining about at all. So overall, the knife looks really good to me. Slight cosmetic defect there. I don't think it's an issue. We'll go ahead and take a look at the sheath here. And I believe they have a third-party company make these sheaths for them. I can't remember at the time what they're called. But the leather quality looks good. The riveted pin here looks good. They do have 3 layers of leather here. Now this one I'm not sure about. One of my previous knives I bought actually had a hole right here, as if they left a void for like water drainage. This one does not have that. So I don't know if that was planned, that it does not have a water drainage, or maybe they just slightly changed the design of this sheath for some reason. And then of course, as far as putting the blade in, it fits really well. No problem there. Has a nice snug fit on that knife. So let's go ahead. We like the knife. We looked at it. The boxing was good. It looks nice and sharp looking. You know, looks real attractive looking. The blade and sheath itself looks really, really handsome. Looks nice. The blade and knife looks really well. This handle here is a little bit dried out. When I first purchased the knife, it's been sitting in my kitchen for a month now, but the scales were not this dry looking, so it did have a layer of oil all over the entire knife that was wrapped in that cellophane. So since I unwrapped it, and I haven't used it since I unwrapped it though, but it kind of dried out a little bit from sitting there. But we'll go ahead and hydrate it and get it kind of looking a little better there, but no fault of the material at all. So I think to start off with, everybody likes the paper test. So we'll grab a piece of paper here. And I haven't sharpened this knife. I haven't cut nothing with this knife. I haven't put a new edge or nothing on it. We'll go ahead and just test out some paper here a little bit. There's just something that's amazingly satisfying here. And you can see as I cut down the whole length of the blade, it doesn't seem to snag or glitch on there. So the whole length of the blade seems to be nice and sharp. Alright, that's looking just as you would want it to perform. So we got some catfish rope here. Now this rope here I use for trout lines. It's a pretty stout rope. I'm not sure the breaking strength on there, but it's pretty tough stuff. You can't snap this rope with your hands at all. but we'll double it over a few times. Got 4 wraps right here. We'll go ahead and cut through that. We'll go ahead and try to put this in slow-mo for you guys so you can get a good look at it. So it's cutting through this rope just as we expected, no big deal. Cuts like butter. Here's 8 wraps on here, I think. No big deal. So we got some green pieces of wood here. We'll go ahead and carve a little tent stake real quick. So we'll go ahead and put a nice point on the end of this. We'll put a point on it, I think. Then we'll go ahead and back here we'll put a L7 notch. And then we'll go ahead and round off and put a chamfered edge on top of this spike here. So as I'm cutting here too, I'm just not cutting to make this steak. I'm trying to see how the knife performs and how it feels in my hand. You know, this has more contour lines in the handle versus like the Kepart, which has the straight design. So I'm trying to see how it feels in my hand. See if there's any ridges or high spots on there that I don't like. So far so good, no big deal. And obviously you could keep sharpening this and making it as pretty as you want and as smooth as you want, but this is a tent snake, so we're not doing like real fine carving tasks here. We're not trying to carve a spoon out or nothing like that. All seems to perform really well though. So we got our tent stake started. So we'll come up, we'll go ahead and make a notch, let's say, right about here. Of course I don't have nothing else to baton with. Let's see if this works. So we're going to want to come in about 1/3 of the way. You could take a close look at that. So we're going to take the blade, put it against the knife there, and we're going to push, but we're also going to use our thumb and just take off little shavings here. Alright, that looks good right there. So of course with making our tent stake, we've talked about this before, but as you're pounding that tent stake in there, you have this L7 notch. So if we don't chamfer and take off the front of this, if you have a glancing blow, you take a chance of cracking your steak out. So we'll go ahead and put a chamfer in it. We'll go all the way around, but we'll make a little bit bigger of a chamfer on the notch side of it. There we go. So that's a pretty acceptable looking tent stake right here. So I got a piece of fat wood here. So another thing I'd like to do is just make some shavings with this. And we're shooting for kind of small, so I'm going to start the blade up here and just kind of slowly work it down. And like I said, this is some fat wood here, so this is kind of hard wood. It's got some resin in there. We got a little knot right here. So it really doesn't seem to have no trouble performing on these smaller carving tasks at all. Now I'm not a big fan of batoning with a knife, but I understand that some situations people may find it necessary to do it. I rather carry the right tool for the job, so I'd rather have an hatchet versus batoning with a blade. And this piece of fat wood here, it does have a couple knots in it. I think we'll approach it from this side. But we'll go ahead and knock off a couple pieces here if we can. It's not real flat shaped. But when we do this, you want to try to make sure you hold your blade at a 90 degree to what you're batoning. And what I'm shooting for here, so I wanted a piece of fat wood, but now I could take that 90 degree spine and I'm going to make some ultra fine shavings here. And so these are the shavings that you want when you try to actually start your fire. We'll use those real little shavings on there. So I believe like this knife can handle batoning if it was necessary, but for the price point that this blade comes in at, and also having the 0 degree Scandi grind on there, while it may be able to perform the job that you need under emergency situation, it's not something I feel that you should do daily. Alright, so we went ahead and made some ultra fine shavings with the 90 degree spine here. We got some fat wood shavings. So you guys already probably guessed it. We're going to make some feathers here with this piece of dead wood. I believe this is a piece of poplar here. We're just going to come in slow. So you got the edge of your blade here. We're going to come down, lay it flat till it touches, and just slide down. And start turning the blade in just ever so slightly. So this piece of wood here, it's still actually got a lot of density to it, so our shavings aren't coming off super perfect. So really, if you're looking for perfect shavings, you're going to want a piece of wood that's a little bit softer than this one, and try to get it with as few as you can as far as knots or little twists and curves in the blade, or in the stick. So I went ahead and grabbed this another stick. It's been raining out here for about 3 days, so most of our wood, even wood that's suspended in the air, not just laying on the ground, but it's pretty dang wet already. So I'm going to scratch the outside of that off, kind of expose the dry wood in there. So we got enough shavings here. Just kind of gives a little example. But again, though, this knife and that Scandi grind on there, it went ahead and had no issues there. The blade, I don't see no curling on the blade or anything. It still looks nice and strong. I'm going to go ahead and grab a ferrule rod. Just so happen to have one on my bag here. But go ahead and take a look. We'll take a look at this pile of fat wood. But we're going to clean off the edge of our ferrule rod there. We'll go ahead and see if we can get a spark going here, or get a fire going. Took us a couple strikes there. I think our fat wood might be a little not real strong with resin. I really enjoy that smell of that resin burning off of that fat wood. Just has such a pleasant smell to it and reminds me of fall time. But anyways, as far as our Scorpion Edition Pathfinder Knife Shop, I think I'd highly recommend this knife. And we're going to go ahead and take a moment here, and we're going to come in with the camera so you guys can look over the knife, and we'll talk about some of the specs here. But I really feel that this knife is going to perform well for a combination of things. So one, I think it does fulfill the bushcrafting outdoor kind of community there. But I think along with that, having the narrow blade and kind of having the contour that it does, that it actually make a really good hunting knife as well. So maybe something for deer camp, elk camp, something like that, or even skinning some smaller game. I think that this style of blade would perform really well for that. So I'm going to go ahead and set this knife up for you guys. I'm thinking maybe about this fashion. And you guys can come in and take a look at it, and I'll tell you some of the specs on it. So in our Pathfinder Knife Shop here, the thickness of our stock of our steel, so the actual thickest width of it, is going to be 1/8 of an inch. So the entire length of the blade, it's going to be a full tang blade, but this is 1095 high carbon steel, and of course we already talked about the 90-degree spine here. So overall, from tip to butt of the knife is 9 inches, and the blade length, so from our plunge line down to the tip, is going to be 4 1/4 inch for this style knife. And obviously we talked about the finish of the blade, so this is called a forged finish. Even though this is a stock removal knife, it's not a hand forged knife. So on our bevel of our knife here, it has the 0-degree Scandi grind, so each side is going to have a 13-degree bevel on there. As far as our handle goes, you can buy this handle in several different configurations, but we have the camouflage micarta, and so for our weight, it's coming in approximately 5.5 ounces. So the Rockwell of the blade, so how hard the steel is and how easy it is to bend it or crack it or fracture it, that Rockwell is going to be between 55 and 60 on the Rockwell scale. And again, like we talked about, these knives have a lifetime warranty on the blade. So if for some reason you have a defect or you crack the knife in half, maybe the Rockwell for some reason had a flaw in it, but these knives are covered under warranty. So for a closing on our knife review here today, so we did our unboxing, we did a little bit of a testing and just using it and kind of getting the fit and feel and finish of it and how it handles and whether or not we like the ergonomics of the blade and the handle. So overall, I'm very happy with it. It's definitely a blade I think I'd recommend. I think it's a very strong option for you to at least evaluate and whether or not you'd want to add it to your equipment. So I think the blade is outstanding. I really like the handle of it. It feels well. I think the sheath here is a really solid, strong option together. So I hope you guys enjoyed our review today. And I said this is the Self-Reliance Outfitters or Pathfinder Knife Shop Scorpion Edition. And most of our other gear that we used here today, you can pick up from Amazon, and we'll leave that link below. Thanks for watching.